Welcome back, Refurbers and scruffy looking nerve herders. If you're interested in refurbishing, modding, and collecting retro video games, then you've come to the right place. In this video, I'll show you how to refurb a yellow Game Boy that has some missing vertical lines. So sit back, relax, and have some snacks. I bought this Game Boy off Yahoo Auction Japan, about $10 US. After checking this Game Boy for signs of life, it's missing some of its vertical lines. Let's look at some of the tools you'll need today. A pair of tweezers, screwdriver, box cutter, a mat, soldering holder, and a soldering iron. And of course the Game Boy. First, we're going to take out the batteries, then remove the 6 Phillips head screws. We have a long one today, so I'm going to speed through this as much as I can. Okay, let's flip it over and carefully disengage the ribbon cable. Be gentle and apply even pressure. Now that the front half is free, let's set it aside. Now disassemble the back half of the Game Boy. There are 4 screws holding the motherboard in. Let's remove them and take it out. Okay, now let's remove the 4 screws holding in the metal shroud for the cartridge housing. And then let's take out the battery contacts using our tweezers, push down the tabs and push it out of the shell. Let's shift our attention to the front half. There are 10 screws holding this motherboard in. Let's remove them all. The screen connected to the board has some adhesive on it, so try to get a fingernail underneath the board and slowly pull, adding pressure to the board until it pops out. The board is free at last, free at last. Okay, now let's harvest the pads and buttons and check out how much dirt we have built up over the years. Actually, this one is not so bad. Ew. Let's get her shell into the tub and get to scrubbing. All the dirt is gone. Removal of the serial number sticker. If you're interested in how to do this yourself, please watch my label transmat video in the description for details. Give the battery contacts a nice soak in isopropyl to get rid of any corrosion. Let's also remove the screen adhesive using the label transplant method. Put the shells in a tub. This is hydrogen peroxide, other known as oxidol here in Japan. We're going to need to fill the tub just enough to submerge the shells. I use 2 bottles here. Now for the sunlight. Even though it's dark, I can tell the color has really lightened up quite a bit. Let's get it inside. Off camera, I saved all the peroxide in a 2-liter bottle to use again next time I need it. Then we give it one last wash to get rid of all the peroxide. Clean off battery contacts after their isopropyl bath. Here's the shell looking minty fresh and clean. This is where it was severely yellowed. Now it looks almost brand new. There's something very satisfying about de-yellowing plastic. Let's reassemble the Game Boy, starting with putting the battery contact back in the battery compartment. Now we turn our attention to the rear motherboard and clean the battery contacts with some isopropyl. Remember our missing vertical lines problem? To focus on fixing it, first return the cartridge shroud. Next, put the rear motherboard back in the rear shell. Then connect the front motherboard with the rear motherboard via the ribbon cable. Put in some batteries. Remove the black rubber grommet. Power on the Game Boy and darken the contrast. The solder on the flex cable over time loses contact with the board. To fix this, you need to reheat the solder so that it will regain contact and the line will return. As I touch my finger to the flex cable, the lines reappear and disappear. The trick to this fix is to not put the iron directly on the flex cable, but to hover over the location. Also, do not leave the iron in the same place for too long, or it could burn a hole in the cable, causing permanent damage. So take your time, be patient, and if you get frustrated, stop and come back to it later. Also, if you shut off the Game Boy for a while, then turn it back on, some of the lines will miraculously reappear. Sometimes there are some lines that just won't come back. After I got it to this point, I was done. I worked at this for a good 45 minutes to an hour, and it was very aggravating. Moving along, let's finish cleaning up the motherboard and snap her back together. Clean out the speaker with some isopropyl. Now hit the button contacts with some isopropyl. Dust off the screen. Clean the headphone jack, the contrast wheel, link cable port, volume wheel, power jack, power switch, and the cartridge slot. Now replace the buttons and the pads. Now put the front motherboard into the front shell and button up the screws. Don't forget the power switch like I did here. Reconnect the two halves with the ribbon cable carefully. Sandwich the two halves together, button up the shell, cap the port, pop the batteries in, slap on the screen and the serial number sticker. Okay, she is ready. Let's test her out with Rockman World. Well, rock my world. Would you look at that? The screen is magically repaired, even though we couldn't get all the lines fixed when soldering. Amazing. It looks like the pressure from the rubber grommet and the sandwiching of the shell back together was enough to complete the contact and fix it. Sometimes I amaze even myself.
Don't get cocky!
At any rate, today was a success. We refurbed, de-yellowed, and fixed the vertical line issue. Thank you for watching to the end. Be sure to give me a like if you did. As always, I really appreciate it. Let me know down in the comments how your Game Boy refurb went, and if the methods used in today's video helped you out. If you're new to the channel, please consider subscribing and clicking the bell so you won't miss out on future retro game and creative shenanigans. Scruff Dog signing off. Be safe out there and stay scruffy.